this morning I got up and read the local paper, our daily news, and there was a front page article on it, and it was about things going on with scouting, and it made me reflect back to when I was really young. And I remember my scout leader, Mr. Ellsbury, told us every time we broke camp to leave it in better shape than when we arrived. And I got to thinking about water, and that isn't the situation today. Our situation's getting a little worse every year because water levels continue to decline, and they have for the last 30 years. So I think it's a great sign that there's so many of us here together today discussing this vital topic. And also, our committee wanted you guys to know that about 4 months ago at one of our meetings, we decided that it was really important, if we were going to sustain this, to become a nonprofit organization. So the first steps in that have taken place. We'll continue to keep you posted, and we believe there'll be other opportunities for you to become further involved with what we're doing once that occurs. But with that, I'd like to introduce today's MC. Our MC today is Tom Hudson. Tom is the owner and operator of the Hudson Company. And if you spent a couple minutes on his website, you would learn that he's been engaged in domestic and international economic development work since 1979. And then he began community-based economic development and strategic planning work in 1985. He has worked with over 100 communities in 15 states, from Hawaii to Iowa, from Texas to Montana. Tom's company does many things, but they specialize in downtown revitalization and urban planning. They do economic development work and also regional planning work. But I think what's important about Tom is his links and connection to our community. This is his home. In fact, just in the last week, the 6th generation of his family to be a part of this community was born, his first grandchild, Emma Josephine Hudson. I can promise you there's probably no one in this room that is more committed to doing what's right for our environment, for our community. So, we're doing what we need to do to sustain things for those future generations. So anyway, for those and many other reasons, I know Tom is the ideal person to be leading this conversation today. So please help me welcome Tom.
Wasn't that a nice introduction? For full disclosure and for transparency, John Kimberling is my first cousin. And he's a sweetheart. It has been truly a privilege watching his efforts and the efforts of the members of the Palouse Basin Water Summit Planning Committee work for the last 8 years putting this together. It's quite extraordinary. And I think a proper way to begin this evening is to recognize those good people who have been a part of the planning committee in all these years, including, of course, John and the co-chair, Paul Kimmel. Could you folks rise and let's recognize them for all their good efforts, all the members? I think first and foremost, this is about community. That's why we're here, and that's what these people have been giving over the years. We're also very grateful to our sponsors and our supporters that you see on the screen before you and also in your program. As you visit with those folks tonight and see them on the street and other days, please thank them for their community spirit and their support of the Water Summit. I'd also just like to take a moment to give all of you collectively a chance to see who's here as a group. And so if I could just, with a raise of hands, kind of go through the range of community participation, your roles in the community, I'd appreciate it. How many of you are here from the private sector in business? Raise your hand. Just take a look around, folks, and see who your fellow participants are tonight. And how about education, faculty, and staff? Thank you. Nonprofit service organizations? Significant number. Government staff? Thank you, by the way, government staff. You've got the hardest job going, I think, except for our elected officials. How many elected officials do we have here tonight? And could I ask you all to stand? This is important. I think in our current era, one of the hardest things we can do is to be so bold as to go up and be a volunteer as a public servant and run as an elected official. We are so grateful to you for what you do for us and for your presence here. Thank you. Now about students. How many students do we have tonight? Thank you. You'll be running the show here really soon, so we hope that you were inspired by the wonderful speakers that we have tonight, and keep coming back, please. Now what about our private citizens, people here who are here as citizens? That is great. Thank you. That's so important. And what about guests from outside the Palouse? How many have come from a distance? Thank you. Significant number. We're very grateful to you for that. And is there anybody that I've missed that's not in any of those categories?
Indian tribes.
Tribes. Well, government tribes. Are any tribes here present? It's one of our great privileges to be working so closely with the Nez Perce tribe. And they are wonderful regional partners. And while they may not be here this evening, know that their interest and their support is substantial. Yes, thank you. So as we move now to our speakers, I'd like to encourage you to take a look at the biographies that are in the handouts and the programs that you've shared. We want to give them as much time as we can, so I'm going to stick to brief introductions for each of them, and that is out of respect for their time. So let us move forward. Like many of you, I'm really proud to be from the Palouse and from Moscow. This is such a joyful place to live and to grow up. I see so many people in the room that have mentored me and worked with me on so many issues over the years. And I think if there's something that most of us hold in common, it's a passion for community, education, and the environment. I think just about everybody on the Palouse has an opinion on all three of those. Is that fair to say? This is important. And it's in that context why I feel, and I think we all feel, so privileged to have a leader of Moscow who shares these passions and is a true champion for the natural environment. Our mayor is someone that is truly committed to service for the community and works at the national, the regional, and the local level practically every day. And I was just sharing with her that every public meeting I've been to in 2012, she has also been in attendance and or one of the board members of the organization that was hosting. An example of her service is that she's on the board of the National League of Cities. I was just in Riverside, California last week working with the city, and the mayor, Loveridge, shared with me he wanted to tell me to send you his personal regards. This is how highly our mayor is held at a national level. She has been an active member of the Water Summit Planning Committee since its inception over 8 years ago. And I believe that she is key to the solutions of our water challenges here in the Palouse. And I'm very happy to introduce to you the Honorable Mayor Nancy Chaney.
Wow, and we're not even first cousins. Thank you, Tom. Well, I also want to join Tom in acknowledging the good work of John Kimberling and Paul Kimmel, who have been so dedicated as co-hosts of this annual event. So please join me in thanking them as co-chairs of the Palouse Basin Water Summit Planning Committee. I'd also like to thank all of our colleagues on that planning committee for their collegiality and for the germination of so many great ideas. It's such a privilege to serve with them, and I think a lot of the culmination of those efforts will be seen in the caliber of presentations we'll hear from the knowledgeable speakers presented this evening. I want to thank all of you who are here, who share our interest in the cooperative problem solving related to the conservation of a pure and sustainable water supply for all in the basin now and in the future. And that includes the newly delivered Emma Josephine Hudson, right? Yeah, and to think about those future generations as we are working on these summits each year. And is this our 7th or 8th year? 8th year. I must have lost count of those already. But we haven't learned everything there is to know about the water supply in the Palouse Basin. There's still a lot to understand about groundwater, but we have learned a lot over the years, and there are important studies that are pending or are already underway. Our nation, as we all know, was founded on individual liberties. Our society, and especially here in the West, has grown accustomed to abundance, both in terms of our consumption and our aspirations. And there's a rumor out there that environmental protection is antithetical to economic well-being, and I hope we dispel that rumor and that myth. At the same time, we're coming to recognize that there are complex interrelationships among human activities, climate, water availability, food production, and life. And when John mentioned the front page article in the Daily News, I was thinking of another one I saw that related to a presentation just yesterday regarding climate change and water here in the Palouse Basin. As we'll hear today, I'm sure that there are a lot of unknowns about the regional water supply, like where it comes from, where it goes, how much there is, how long it might last. We will also find some potential solutions, I think, in that. Probably regulation and pricing are going to be part of the effort, and I think it does make sense that we work together toward a common water management strategy and a shared ethic of conserving this life-sustaining resource. It crosses jurisdictional limits. It can either divide us or unite us, depending on the path we choose. We already have an excellent model of regional cooperation in the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee. But it's not PBAC's mission to promote a water ethic. It's yours and mine. Today's presentations are sure to be informative, and we're fortunate to have such an esteemed keynote presenter as Cynthia Barnett. We have a wonderful lineup this evening because of the good work of John and Paul and the planning committee and those of you who have contributed ideas to the speakers lineup and the subjects. And so your feedback on these reports subsequent to the meeting is really important for planning future summits and who those speakers might be, what the subjects might be that we address. Again, I want to say welcome to all of you, to the city of Moscow, to the Palouse Basin. Your presence, I think, is emblematic of the shared purpose that we hope to achieve through our efforts here. So thanks very much. Have a good meeting.